The courtroom was packed that afternoon, every seat filled, every whisper carrying tension. Judge Walter Grayson, known for his sharp tongue and shorter patience, sat behind the bench like a king expecting a performance. The defendant before him looked more like a lost teenager than a criminal. 19-year-old Jalen Dawson, accused of stealing a car and resisting arrest. But there was something in Jalen's posture that didn't fit the picture. He wasn't slouching, wasn't fidgeting, wasn't afraid. His hands rested calmly in his pockets, as if he already knew something the rest of the room didn't. When Grayson leaned back, smirking, and said, "You think you're some kind of legal expert, kid?" The gallery chuckled. It felt like everyone was in on the joke, except Jalen. What they didn't know was that the judge had just made his first mistake. He thought this would be routine, another case to wrap before lunch. But the boy standing in front of him wasn't guessing his way through the system. He understood it. Every rule, every loophole, every weakness. And the moment he opened his mouth, the laughter in that courtroom would turn into silence. Jalen Dawson's story didn't start in a courtroom. It started years earlier, in a cramped apartment filled with law books and late-night coffee. His mother, Denise Dawson, was a paralegal who brought her work home, stacks of case files, transcripts, and stories about the way justice actually worked, not how it was supposed to. While other kids memorized basketball stats, Jalen memorized legal precedents. He didn't have video games. He had old court records. Every unfair ruling, every procedural slip-up, it fascinated him. He wasn't supposed to be here today, but life had a cruel sense of humor. Accused of grand theft auto, facing a judge who didn't believe in him, Jalen looked like just another kid in trouble. Even his own public defender seemed half-checked out, waiting for a quick plea bargain. The prosecution was confident, the spectators entertained, and the judge distracted. Everyone thought this would be over in minutes, but under that quiet surface, Jalen wasn't thinking about fear or embarrassment. He was thinking strategy. Every eye in that courtroom saw a clueless teenager. What they didn't see was a mind sharpening its blade. When the prosecutor, Mitchell Carrington, stood up, it was like watching a man who had already written the ending to a story. He adjusted his tie, smiled to the jury, and began with that rehearsed confidence that comes from knowing you're about to win. He painted a clear picture: the stolen Audi, the chase through downtown, the fingerprints on the steering wheel. His words were neat, clean, and deliberate, designed to sound undeniable. The jury nodded along, the judge looked half-convinced already, and Carrington's tone carried the smug rhythm of someone enjoying the show. "The evidence speaks for itself," he said, and for a second it really did. The crowd murmured. The story seemed airtight. But what Carrington didn't realize was that confidence can make you careless. He didn't notice the small details, the parts that didn't quite line up. He didn't see the look in Jalen's eyes when he mentioned the name of the arresting officer. Jalen did. And when the time came, that single detail would unravel everything. Because the truth wasn't hiding in the evidence. It was hiding in the assumptions. When it was time for the defense to respond, the room expected a quick, apologetic statement from a nervous public defender. Instead, Jalen placed a calm hand on his attorney's arm, leaned forward, and said the words that changed everything. "I'll be representing myself, Your Honor." The reaction was instant. Gasps, laughter, disbelief. Even Judge Grayson tilted his head, half amused, half annoyed. "You'll what?" he asked, the edge of a smirk tugging at his mouth. "Represent myself," Jalen repeated, steady and unshaken. The laughter echoed again, but it didn't last. Because the moment Jalen began to speak, the entire courtroom shifted. His tone wasn't angry or defensive. It was measured, intelligent, almost surgical. Every sentence had purpose. Every question had weight. The arrogance in the room started to fade. His curiosity took its place. Who was this kid? How did he know so much? And why did his confidence sound more like experience than luck? For the first time since the trial began, the judge leaned forward, not to intimidate, but to listen. Jalen started simple. "Your Honor," he said, "before I begin, I'd like to confirm something with the prosecution." His calmness was unnerving. He asked about the key witness, Officer Daniel Ruiz, the man who supposedly saw him behind the wheel. Carrington confirmed it, certain the testimony was solid. That's when Jalen struck. "Then I move to dismiss that testimony," he said, his voice cutting through the room like a blade, because Officer Ruiz wasn't even on duty when that chase began. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Carrington's smirk faltered. The judge frowned. Jalen didn't let the silence breathe too long. "If the prosecution is so confident," he continued, "we can verify that with his GPS logs." That single sentence flipped the room's energy. The prosecutor hesitated. The pause was tiny, but deadly. The jury noticed. The judge noticed. Everyone noticed. For the first time, the story the prosecution had built so neatly began to wobble. The confident rhythm was gone. And just like that, a 19-year-old defendant had landed the first real blow of the trial. Carrington scrambled to regain his footing, pointing to the fingerprint evidence as if it were his final weapon. But Jalen was ready. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Let's talk about fingerprints," he began, walking the jury through a simple, devastating example. "If you try on a jacket in a store and your fingerprints end up on it, does that mean you stole it?" The jurors exchanged glances. The logic was too clear to ignore. Then he reminded them that the forensic specialist, the one who processed that evidence, wasn't even called to testify. No cross-examination, no chain of custody, no accountability. The silence that followed was louder than any objection. Jalen wasn't just defending himself anymore. He was teaching them how the system failed. The prosecutor's confidence was cracking. His papers shuffled faster. His voice lost its polish. And somewhere behind the bench, Judge Grayson's smirk was gone. What had started as a formality was turning into a reckoning. Then came the moment that changed everything. Jalen reached into his file and produced a document the prosecution had conveniently ignored. The original statement from the car's owner, Raymond Whitaker. Reading it aloud, Jalen's voice stayed calm, but every word was a strike. The owner had said he left his car running, and the person who drove off wasn't the man police arrested. "The kid I saw," the statement read, "was white." The shock that followed rippled through the courtroom like an earthquake. Carrington's face drained of color. The judge blinked, processing the revelation. The very foundation of the case crumbled in seconds. The jurors whispered. The gallery erupted. But through it all, Jalen stood still, composed, certain. "The real suspect got away," he said softly, "and the police decided that finding someone who looked the part was close enough." The words hung heavy in the air. For the first time, even Judge Grayson didn't know what to say. The courtroom wasn't just watching a trial anymore. They were witnessing a system unravel. When Judge Grayson finally spoke, his voice had lost its edge. "Case dismissed," he said quietly, but the sound of those two words was explosive. Reporters scribbled, gasps echoed, and the bailiff struggled to keep order. Jalen didn't celebrate. He simply nodded, calm as ever, while his mother wept silently in the back row. As he walked toward the exit, Grayson called after him. "Mr. Dawson," he said, his tone different now, respectful, "you should consider law school." Jalen paused, turned slightly, and offered a faint smile. "Already have, Your Honor." Outside, the flash of cameras met the cool air of freedom. Reporters shouted questions, microphones reached out, but Jalen didn't stop. This wasn't about fame. It was about something deeper. He'd just exposed how fragile the system could be when no one asked questions. He didn't just win his case. He forced the courtroom to look in the mirror. And for once, the system blinked first.